President Biden about to speak in his hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania. He's trying to sell the public on his trillion-dollar spending plans, but new poll numbers show that not many Americans are buying into it. His approval rating now sinking to just 37%. And the independents who carried him to victory are souring as well, with 56% now disapproving of the job he's doing. And crises continue to pile up for the White House. Recorded bottlenecks in the supply chain, along with inflation distressing Americans as the prices of food and gas continue to soar. And then there are shortages, like in Colorado, where they don't have enough food for the school lunches, leading to other problems that's happening across the country. Harold, why is President Biden traveling to Scranton, Pennsylvania to make this sales pitch? He already has the senators of Delaware on board. They're going to say yes. We don't have a job shortage in America. We have other problems, but yet he's just going to go to Scranton.
It's home for him. I think he's able to convey the message, and it's an all-Americana surrounding. But your point I take well, and I think is broader. They're facing a lot of headwinds here. They need a win. It is interesting to me that there's some Democrats who are trying to provide a path, including Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. And it seems as if even Bernie Sanders may recognize that Joe Biden was elected president, and we've got to go down a different path. But there are two issues here, the polling, and then there's the narrative around the bill. The polling is terrible, and they are intertwined. They've got to get a better narrative. Like, I don't know, other than some of the things that Republicans who are opposed to it, what they say is in it, and what a few Democrats say is in it, but it doesn't have a rhyme and reason to me. We yesterday on this set talked about, I think, the most disturbing story. The Philadelphia story is disturbing on another level, but a disturbing story from a policy standpoint is that China now has the capacity and technology to make a missile that can zig and zag and maybe drop a bomb over an American city. If that's not an organizing principle for us in the country, government leaders and others to say, here's what we need to be doing, I don't know what else is. I would implore the White House, I understand where you're coming from, and I like a lot of the things that are in both, if not all of the things in infrastructure and some of the things in the overall reconciliation package, but tie it together. Give us a message, give us a narrative. And if you can't do that, those poll numbers will continue to drop.
They're having a hard time selling it, but here's the thing, Jesse. This frustrates me so much. In the reconciliation bill, what did President Biden say last night to tell all the people we got to make some cuts because we're not going to be able to get $3.5 trillion? But the one thing that will not get cut is something from years ago, and that's the increased subsidies for Obamacare. So what happens is you give, as progressives, like you give an inch because you know you're going to get the mile later on because those programs never go away.
The country has a very short attention span. Everyone is really busy. And if you're going to sell something, if you're a salesman, a politician, anybody, you have a window to sell, and it has to be simple. You have to tax cuts, Obamacare. That's it, right? It has to be clean, simple, and convincing. And Joe Biden hasn't done that. He has two things. He has infrastructure. No one knows what that is. And he has reconciliation. More people don't know what that is. No one knows what the word is. Build Back
Better's not doing it for you.
And no one knows what is in the reconciliation bill. So he's taken two things. It's too complicated. And people are now obsessed over the price tag and the process instead of what am I getting as an American citizen that you're trying to sell to me. Instead of one thing, like tax cuts or Obamacare, he has put every single thing liberals have always wanted to do into one pot. Amnesty for 10 million illegals, tax hikes, Green New Deal. It's IRS. It's too much for people to keep track of, so he's not able to close it. And now it doesn't meet the moment, because what do we need windmills for right now when people are caring about COVID, the economy, and illegal immigration? Those are the top three concerns of the American people. And you're talking about universal daycare. Would you trust a baby with the federal government? No. And the program's not going to get off the ground in, 2 years, 3 years? A tax cut, for a child credit tax cut? No one's going to give Joe Biden credit for that. No one feels that. You sell a wall, you see a wall. Obamacare, we went online and we bought it. Say what you want. There was something that you could actually feel. None of this you can feel.
The other thing is that President Biden has tended to cater to the left. Because yesterday, after they had that meeting, the progressives were very gracious and generous and said, oh, he's the closer, he's the best. And the moderates said nothing.
No, you know what? You guys are all wrong. The solution here is it's our fault. We have to lower our expectations.
Yeah, like Michelle.
Because it is on us. It's not on Joe. And how dare we expect competence from the government, right? The overriding message from the White House for every problem has always been, it's on you, America. I'm losing my patience with you, America, about COVID. I'm now like saying like, oh, you don't like waiting in line? You don't like empty stores? You know what? Get used to it, all right? This is the argument that prevailed in the Soviet Union. You didn't like the bread line? Don't wait in the bread line. Starve. I'd wait in the bread line. America now has to deal. We have to deal with the decline because the government and the media is telling us that the decline is necessary. It is not temporary. It is actually deserved. The pursuit of happiness is now an acceptance of fate. And this is how countries decline and possibly die. It's not in a bloody civil war. It's a revolution that is sold to you as progress when it is not. If America were a patient, this White House would be happy to smother it with a pillow. And that's a terrible analogy.
But I understood it,
yes.
Unlike the other things that Jesse was saying, it's hard to understand. Katie, take us into the mind of Kyrsten Sinema, the senator from Arizona. She's basically been the one that the Democrats are the most mad at. They are very frustrated with her. They don't seem to be as mad at Manchin for whatever reason. What do you think that she'll do?
Well, I think that they may be more frustrated with her because when she was running for office, she seemed like she was more far left and she has governed and voted more conservatively since she's been in office. But she's probably looking at Joe Biden's poll numbers and going, he is very unpopular in Arizona, and that is the state I represent, and so I'm going to represent my constituents. And after the president came out and was asked if it was okay to follow me into the restroom with a phone and record in the restroom with harassment, and he said, well, it's part of the job instead of condemning it, I really have no interest in kind of helping him get his big achievement over the line. In terms of why he's going to Scranton, I think he's going there because Scranton is like his security blanket. You know, he always talks about it, makes him feel good. His poll numbers are really bad. He does need a win. And for a while, the White House tried to blame Republicans for not getting this thing passed. But if you look at the independents and what they're feeling about this, they can't do that anymore.